for his interpellation.
Maraming salamat, Mr. Chair. Magandang umaga po sa Ombudsman family headed by Justice Samuel Martires. Ako po may tatlong katanungan. This representation of the 2nd District of Parañaque would like to ask, my first question would be, could you please clarify the Ombudsman's stance and procedures regarding anonymous complaints against public officials? How does the Ombudsman evaluate, investigate such complaints, and what criteria are used to determine whether anonymous complaints are acted upon or not?
Mr. Chair, Your Honor, the Ombudsman, pursuant to the Constitution and the law creating the Office of the Ombudsman, 6770, has given the Ombudsman the authority to investigate motu proprio. We also entertain anonymous complaints if the complaints have verifiable facts. Ibig pong sabihin, if the facts stated in the complaint can be verified and there is substantial evidence to show that pwede namin pagpatuloy ang investigasyon, we continue with that. Just like in the judiciary, where there is a complaint against a judge, even if it is an anonymous complaint, the Supreme Court also entertains those matters. Thank you very much, Your Honor.
And ano po ang criteria po natin o basihan pag sinabi po natin siya po ay dapat aksyonan o hindi?
Once we establish the verifiable facts, we validate. Ito bang mga facts nito ay totoo, nag-exist? So that's where we conduct the fact-finding investigation or the case build-up to validate all these facts that are stated in the anonymous complaint. Because otherwise, kung wala man lang kami makuhang ebidensya, walang dokumento, walang witness na pwede mag-testify, the investigators will just recommend for the dismissal of the complaint.
Okay. Second question. In light of the Office of the Ombudsman's decision to file graft charges against individuals involved in the purchase of COVID-19 RT-PCR test kits from Pharmally Pharmaceutical Corporation and the subsequent recommendation for penalties, can you please clarify what specific actions or measures the Office of the Ombudsman intends to take to ensure the enforcement of these penalties and legal accountability of those involved in the case?
Your Honor, Mr. Chair, Your Honor, sa administrative aspect of those involved in the purchase of test kits, one of those that was dismissed from the service is the Ombudsman's own overall Deputy Ombudsman. Karamihan po doon na-dismiss, may mga na-dismiss na from the service. On the criminal aspect, we're just waiting that the motion for reconsideration of the persons involved of the respondents is resolved, and we will immediately file this with the Sandigan Bayan, Your Honor.
Could you please provide information on the potential repercussions and impact of government accountability and transparency in the event of the abolishment of ARTA?
Mr. Chairman, Your Honor, I have nothing against ARTA. I want to make this clear, I have nothing against ARTA, except that the law that created ARTA has partly trodden into the path of the Ombudsman. Ang sabi po ng Konstitusyon, The 1987 Constitution says that the determination of red tape, inefficiency, and corruption is the sole function of the Ombudsman. Ang nangyari po dito sa batas ng ARTA, sinaklaw ng ARTA yung pagdidetermine namin ng red tape. Wala akong pakialam kung gawin ng ARTA yung pagtulong sa mga ahensya ng gobyerno para mapabilis ang kanilang to oversee yung gawain ng gobyerno. With no offense meant to anyone, naging emotional kasi ang Kongreso noon eh. When President Rodrigo Duterte said, sa amin sa Davao, isang araw lang, tapos na yung clear, yung ano na yun, mga application for licenses. I mean, I have nothing against anyone or whoever has passed those, has authored this law, but parang naging emotional eh. It was more of an emotional decision rather than looking into ano ba other existing laws. It is true that the Ombudsman during the previous years ay hindi na-address yung determination of red tape and efficiency. What are the causes of inefficiency? Because the office of the Ombudsman has been overwhelmed with complaints, with cases. Sinisimula na nga sana nitong panahon ko, pero mayroon namang ARTA, ano naman ang gagawin ko? So I have a conversation with ARTA. Go ahead with what you're doing. We will also do what we are supposed to do under the law. Thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Chair, I just would like to, not really forewarn, but maybe caution also, and let us be very careful, especially when we dismiss or we prosecute or recommend for the prosecution of people who came from the private sector and joined government. Kasi po, nangyayari po niyon, ang usap-usapan, sa marami pong nasususpindi, natatanggal ng mga tao sa gobyerno na galing po sa pribado, marami na rin pong natatakot sa pribado na sumama po sa gobyerno. So, dapat tingnan ho natin mabuti ho to. Dahil nagkakaroon ho ng takot at concern yung mga gustong magagaling na galing ho sa pribado, sumama sa gobyerno at tumulong sa ating pamahalaan.
Mr. Alam ko po kung sino po ang tinutumbok ninyo, kagalang-galang na kinatawan ng Parañaque. Subalit, wala hong personalan ito eh. When you dismiss or when you reassign employees to other departments, you should comply with the provisions of the law. Mayroon hong requirement. Isa ko sa requirement to, you maintain the same status, the same work. Hindi ho po pwede na isang inhinyero ay gawin nyo security. O ang isang security, i-assign mo bilang kahero. Siguro magkaiba ho ang mga functions nito. Para ho nag-assign kayo ng isang abogado na gawin niyang taga-imbalsamo. O ang isang surgeon na gawin yung isang prosecutor, hindi naman abogado. So, there's nothing wrong if a person from the private sector joins the government. For as long as you comply with government laws and regulations, you do not violate the law, wala hong dapat ikatakot. Marami pong salamat.
Marami rin po salamat, Mr. Chair, Mr. Ombudsman. Palagay ko ho ay hindi ko isa lang po yan sa maybe mga tao na naapektuhan, pero marami naman po at even before your time na may mga nangyari pong ganyan. Meron po sa BIR na magagaling na humawak po dyan, tinanggal at sila'y very disgruntled. At syempre kumakalat naman po yan sa business community. Totohanan, minsan ho kasi meron po tayong mga ahensya na pag pumasok po ang isang pribadong mamamayan, at na-advise siya ng kanyang mga legal counsel at gagawa naman siya ng galaw, minsan ang gigiba naman ho dyan yung mga iba't ibang mga built-in na sindikato dun sa ahensyang yun. So ang gibaan ho dyan ay kawawa ho yung isang pribadong mamayan na talagang gustong tumulong, gawin yung dapat ginagawa niya sa pag-manage niya sa isang pribadong kumpanya, at ito'y dali niya sa gobyerno. Ang problema, ang gigiba ho dyan ay yung mga sasagasaan at yung mga sindikato, at marami pong ahensyang ganyan po. Especially malalaki at malalaki po mga budget. Dahil sila po uno na apektuhan. Pag sila na-reassign, sila ang nawawalan ho ng hanap buhay. Kaya may agenda ho sila eh. So dapat ho, pagay ko, yan ay dapat i-evaluate. Naintindihan ko po kayo. Pero hindi lang po yung ahensyang binabanggit nyo. Even before, natagal na rin po ako sa gobyerno, since 1988 pa ho ko, nakita ko na ho ito paulit-ulit kung paano gibain ang isang pribadong manager na galing sa pribadong sektor, paano gibain ang mga sindikato sa isang ahensya. Salamat po.
Mr. Chair, Your Honor, we act when there are complaints, especially internal affairs within the government office. We cannot act kung wala namang complaint o wala kami nabasa sa dyaryo para we can start a case build-up investigation or a fact-finding investigation. Sana po yung mga taong nasagasaan nung sila ay nasa BIR, sana po nagreklamo sila, nireklamo po lang kanilang mga superiors. I mean, I encourage everyone, every government employee, na ireklamo niyo mga superiors niyo. Nagkamali, ireklamo ninyo. Ako po, minura po ako ng isang empleyado ng ombudsman. When I said during the last budget hearing in the Senate that even the ombudsman is not free from corruption, isang empleyado po namin. Tinawag pa ako si Raulo. Minura po ako, ginamit po malalalim na termino sa Bisaya. Pero pinagsawalang bahala ko yun. Pagsama yun sa trabaho ko eh. So, I encourage government employees, ireklamo ninyo ang inyong mga boss. Kung sila'y nagkasala, sila'y tiwali, ireklamo ninyo. Just be sure that pagdating ng investigasyon, kayo'y haharap. Hindi yung magrereklamo lang kayo na marami kasi sa ombudsman po ngayon na magpa-file ng complaint. Pag sinimula namin investigasyon, alam mo nyo sinasagot? Basta nag-file ako ng complaint, wala na akong pakialam dyan, bahala na kayo. Saan po kami kukuha ng witness? Kung hindi siya mismo na nag-file ng reklamo. Marami pong ganyan. Kanya't nag-iisip nga po ako na i-cite in contempt itong mga tao nagpa-file ng mga harassment suits Karamihan po sa mga empleyado sa gobyerno, lalo na mga politiko, ay victims of harassment suits. I stand by that. Marami po. At siguro nga values talaga ito Maano sa tao yung inggit, pumapasok sa atin inggit na aywan ko pero values all boils down to values. And I encourage government officials, Honorable Congressman Tambunting, can tell them they can file their complaint anytime with the Office of the Ombudsman, and we will act on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Representative Gats, Tambunting. I just would like to ask the Ombudsman about the ARTA, no? Would you therefore suggest that, because it's overlapping function, that ARTA law should be repealed or modified or what?
I made that suggestion to have the ARTA law modified, but it fell on deaf ears last year. I was encouraged by my peers, by my colleagues, to file a case before the Supreme Court to declare partly the ARTA law as unconstitutional. Pero sa dami po ng problema namin sa ombudsman, ayoko nang patulan ang mga ganyan. I just want to voice out my sentiment that ARTA has trodden into
Ako rin.
the functions of the ombudsman, and that makes it unconstitutional. Especially the determination of red tape, the causes of red tape and inefficiency in government. In fact, if you read the Constitution, hindi dapat nagpapataw ng parusa. Ang ginagawa po ng ARTA ngayon ay nagpapataw ng parusa. Bawal po yun. Pero ako hindi nagsasawalang kibo. Ayoko po ng away. Pero kung sila ay pinipilit na ako makipag-away, ay pwede rin naman po. Marami po salamat.
Thank you, Justice Martires. Now, I'd like to call now the minority, Representative Bonifacio Busita for his interpellation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ako po kasi twice nang nagkakaso sa ombudsman. Nung ako po ay police sergeant pa lang at nung ako ay naging colonel na. At wala po akong lawyers, wala akong lawyer. And explain ko lang yung side ko plus yung mga documents. And na-dismiss po yung complaint against me. Kaya ako po 100% kumpiyansa po ako, tiwala ako sa ombudsman, pero unjust po sila. And nabanggit ko po ito para kasi sa iba po, once na nadinig na may kinasuhan, parang convicted na agad eh. Yun yung napansin ko po. Kaya binanggit ko po ito na sana sa ibang mga kapwa public servants natin at sa iba nating mga kababayan, kapag nadinig natin na kinasuhan yung isang government employee or public servant or government official, wag tayong masyadong nagpapadala sa marites na parang napakasama na nung tao. Kasi nabanggit ko po ito, kasi twice na ako nagkakaso, wala akong lawyer, pero na-dismiss yung kaso, yung complaint against me. Now, ang tanong ko po sa ombudsman, ngayon ako naman ang nag-file ng complaint against somebody. Kailangan pa po ba na mag-follow up or mag-send ng letter sa ombudsman para ano na ba yung status ng complaint na isinampa natin? Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, Your Honor, kung agtatanong niyo lang po yung status ng kaso, sasabihin po namin sa inyo anong status ng kaso. If it is ongoing investigation, we will tell you it is still ongoing investigation. But on the extent of the investigation, we cannot tell you that because these are all confidential in nature. At yung pagpa-follow up po sa office ng Ombudsman, basta yun lang. Ano na ba? Nag-iimbestiga na ba kayo o hindi pa kayo nag-iimbestiga? But on the matter of kasi yung iba na nagfa-follow up, gusto lang makausap yung investigador, ay hindi po namin pinapayagan yon. And personally, ako mismo ay hindi po ako nakikipag-usap sa mga tao may mga kaso sa Ombudsman.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Yung previous case po na sinampa namin, nag-send po kami ng letter sa Ombudsman. At sinabi naman po na ongoing na yung case. Ang ano lang po, ilang months na ito eh. Anyway, ako po, dahil galing ako sa PNP, naintindihan ko naman po ang ombudsman. Maraming cases kayong hinahandle at hindi naman pwedeng i-shortcut. No po. So, tinanong ko lamang po yon, but ang interest ko lang po talaga, kaya nag-attend ako dito sa hearing na ito, is para magpasalamat po ako sa inyo at sabihin sa ating mga kababayan na ang ombudsman po ay isa sa talagang pwede nating pagtiwalaan. Maraming salamat po, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, Your Honor, pwede po bang malaman yung kahit numero lang ng kaso na final ninyo, if you have? The Deputy Ombudsman for Moleo is here right now, so he can immediately, at least before we leave the halls of Congress, we can immediately inform you ano na ho ang status ng kaso na yon. Maraming pong salamat.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Check ko lang po. May time pa naman siguro ako, ilang seconds. Ombudsman case number Oscar Mike Bravo, Das Charlie, Das Alpha, Das November, Das 22, Das 0283. I will repeat, Mr. Chair. Ombudsman case number Oscar Mike Bravo, Das Charlie, Das Alpha, Das November, Das 22, Das 0283. Yun lamang po, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman Busita. Hindi naman siguro ako yun, no? Okay. I would like now to recognize Representative Richard Gomez for his interpellation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was very delighted with the manifestation of the good ombudsman when he mentioned the publication of the audit observation memo. As a matter of fact, Mr. Chair, Mr. Ombudsman, I filed the House resolution in August of 2022, almost a month ago. And this resolution is urging the Commission on Audit to withhold publication of its audit findings, observations, or reports until the same have been final, simply because the COA traditionally publishes tentative findings of its audits or observation memos before finalizing and issuing its official reports. And the publication of such audit observation memoranda may lead to premature and unsubstantiated conclusions which could negatively impact the reputation and credibility of audited agencies, primarily LCEs, no? And the department agency heads. And also the publication of audit observations may cause unnecessary panic or confusion among the general public without providing a complete and accurate picture of the audited agency's financial situation or compliance status. And also, instances have occurred in the past that when what initially appeared as irregular, unnecessary, extravagant, or preposterous expenditures or uses of government funds and properties have actually been founded to be regular, lawful, or prudent once concerned office or entity has been given a reasonable opportunity to explain and present its side. So withholding the publication of tentative findings will allow the Commission on Audit to ensure the accuracy and completeness of its audit reports, thus upholding its commitment to transparency and accountability. Why am I saying this? Because prior to being a congressman, I was a mayor. And, you know, government system is not a perfect system. We have sometimes our shortcomings and faults, but a lot of this can be corrected. And ang problema, pag nandiyan na yung observation memo, nag-exit conference na, at ipinablish ito, diyan na dumarating yung mga kalaban mo sa politika o kayo yung mga ayaw sa'yo. Sasabihin, eto na yung mga maling ginawa nitong opisyal na to. And it appears to the public eye na mali talaga yung ginagawa mo. That's why it's very important, Mr. Chairman, tama po yung sinabi ni Good Ombudsman na sana ang COA will only publish its final report. So with this resolution, Mr. Chair, I hope that it will be taken up soon in the committee and hopefully we can vote on this in plenary. Na sa ganon, wala na masyadong masaktan. Hindi lang po mga LCEs, pero karamihan ng government agencies dito sa bansa natin. Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Thank you so much, Mr. Ombudsman. Tapos, Mr. Chair, meron din, siyempre, meron din akong ibibigay na file po sa inyo. Hindi ko na lang po sasabihin on the floor, pero iaabot ko lang po sa inyo just to get a personal feedback. Maraming salamat po. Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Mr. Ombudsman, thank you.
Thank you, Congressman Richard Gomez. Ngayon po, I would like to call Vice Chair Michi Kahayon Uy please. Hindi po ba siya?
Wala po.
Ha? Okay. I'd like to call Vice Chair Ruel Peter Gonzaga, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Sir Ombudsman. My question would be on the issue of speedy trial, speedy disposition of cases versus this, what we call defense of the respondents inordinate delay. Will you please give us your wisdom on this, Sir Ombudsman?
Mr. Chair, Your Honor, this is one question that begs another question. We talk of inordinate delay. We talk of speedy disposition of cases or of investigation of cases. Right now, the Supreme Court in the Kagan case has determined that 2 years is enough to complete an investigation. You will never appreciate the work of the Ombudsman unless you are there. Nobody will appreciate bakit nagtatagal ang investigasyon hanggat wala ka sa iyo sa loob ng Ombudsman. This is the reason why I'm trying to reach out to the Supreme Court, to the judiciary. Pag-usapan namin itong speedy disposition of cases, on the speedy investigation of cases. Bakit po? Yung violation of Anti-Graft and Corrupt Practices Act or some other offenses under the revised penal code, mga 10 years po o kaya 15 years ang prescriptive period. But on the flimsy ground of inordinate delay, nadidismiss po yung kaso. Sa ibang bansa po, katulad sa Amerika, ang pinag-uusapan po is the statutory prescription. Nag-prescribe na ba yung kaso? Kung hindi pa nag-prescribe yung kaso, tuloy ang investigasyon. Now, going back again to what I said, that you will never appreciate how hard it is to investigate unless you're in the office of the Ombudsman. Kasi ngayon ko lang nakita, pagpadala mo pa lang ng subpoena to file a counter affidavit, hihingi ka agad yung respondent ng time to secure the services of a lawyer. Pag nakakuha ng abogado, hihingi din yung abogado ng period of time to file its counter affidavit. So kung ang pinag-usapan natin dito mga 2-3 buwan, mayroon ho. Okay. Sa pagkuha po ng mga dokumento, kuminsan napaka-voluminous po ng mga documents, especially if these are COA reports. We have to read each and every page. Hindi naman po yung tinitingnan lang na but the investigators evaluate these documents that they get from the agencies concerned. So sana, luwag-luwagan sana. Ibalik natin siguro doon sa Tatad Doctrine ng mga 3 taon. Siguro 3 taon ay sufficient na yon. Kasi halimbawa, yung investigasyon inabot ka hanggang 2 years to make your recommendation, at least there is a period of time for the Ombudsman also to review the report of investigation. Ngayon, kung mamarapatin ng Congress to pass a law to define what is inordinate delay, siguro mas maganda yon para wala nang hindi na tayo umaasa sa jurisprudence. And I think it can be done. Kasi hindi pa nagpe-prescribe yung kaso But it all depends, on, we just rely on the Supreme Court in the meantime that they say 2 years, pero you're tying the hands of the Ombudsman in reviewing the case.